I'm fresh off a Women's Champions League watch along, and I see the news about Jim Ratcliffe's comments regarding Manchester United. And I think it's not an international break if Man United journalists and media don't need something for the Manchester United fan base to talk about. And if you guys don't know, Jim Ratcliffe has done an interview with the Times Business podcast, and he spoke about a lot of stuff concerning Manchester United, but some interesting comments have come out from him regarding Ruben Amorim and his future at Manchester United. And essentially, I think he's doubled down on the idea that Ruben Amorim is not going anywhere and Ineos will not forcefully get rid of him, and they won't have their hand forced to sack him, not by the media, not by the Glazers, not by anybody. They will give him the time. We've got a lot to talk about, so make sure you hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well if you're new here. Now, earlier today, I was watching a show on Sky Sports News, and it was called Inside Manchester United. And this is the first proper time that I've probably seen any media outlet during international break doing an insider dossier into what is going wrong with a club. And I think that's the first, probably the first thing that we could talk about of what is wrong at Manchester United, is the fact that everybody wants to talk about it and not offer solutions, because the main solution is probably be to start over again. I think that's a lot of the consensus around a lot of people. Now, followed by that, then I saw the comments from Jim Ratcliffe that speaking about Ruben Amorim, and it really stood out to me. And I'm going to speak to you about those comments and also kind of give you lot my opinion on what I think it is. So let me know down below what you lot think. Now, Jim Ratcliffe, speaking on Ruben Amorim, said, "He has not had the best of seasons. Ruben needs to demonstrate he is a great coach over 3 years. That's where I would be. The press, sometimes I don't understand. They want overnight success. They think it's a light switch. You know, you flick a switch and it's all going to be roses tomorrow. You can't run a club like Manchester United on knee-jerk reactions to some journalist who just goes off on one every week." Now, he went on to say that if the Glazers told him to sack Ruben Amorim, it would not happen. It would not happen. So essentially, what Jim Ratcliffe is alluding to and suggesting is that Ruben Amorim will see out his contract. He spoke about examples, and these examples I think are lazy conversations, and I think I say this all the time, not just, because Jim Ratcliffe has said it. I've had these conversations as well with people on the channel. Jim Ratcliffe then went on to say, "I remember the calls for Sir Alex Ferguson's sacking during his first 2 years. Look at Arteta at Arsenal. He went through tough times in his first 2 years. We look at those results, but we need to be patient and take a long-term view." And I really think that as football managers or football ownerships and football structures and football clubs, you can't paint you can't paint everything with the same brush. Just because Alex Ferguson underwent turmoil and a tough time, and maybe Arteta managed to see the light at the end of the tunnel, what about the hundreds of other managers at big football clubs that didn't? I saw Real Madrid sack a manager after 3-4 months because of bad results. I've seen clubs, I saw AC Milan last year sign Sergio Conceição and get him sacked by the end of the season, despite the fact that he won a trophy, knowing that he was leaving. Why don't we talk about the teams and the clubs that don't give the managers time and find themselves in better situations than what they did under that manager? Now, I think Ruben Amorim's situation at Manchester United, I think it's a bit of a unicorn. I really think it's a bit of a unicorn because he has money at his disposal in transfer windows. He has, I think, a group of talented or quality players that can do a job to a certain degree. He has that at his disposal. He has free reign on decision making. He got rid of the players that he didn't want from previous managers. He got rid of the likes of Anthony, Højlund, Marcus Rashford. He got rid of Jadon Sancho. He got rid of players that he wanted out of the door. He got to keep the players that he wanted to keep in Bruno Fernandes. He got rid of Onana after the transfer window closed here in Europe. He was able to make those decisions that maybe a lot of other managers don't get the satisfaction of being able to do. So I think that's the first factor. And despite that, the results aren't looking better. The performances aren't looking better. The morale around the fan base does not feel any better. Now, today when I was watching Sky Sports, I saw an interesting graphic, and I've seen it before as well on Monday Night Football. And it was a graphic that was showing every team or every manager post Sir Alex Ferguson and the number of points that they have had after the 34 game mark. Now, that's 34 games because that's how much Ruben Amorim has coached. Ruben Amorim has yet to break that 40-point mark. Every other manager exceeded it, 50s and plus, exceeded it. He has yet to break the 40-point mark in Premier League games coached. That's abysmal. That's poor. it's also poor that he has led Manchester United to some of the poorest results, the worst finish as a Manchester United team. Even publicly coming out and saying these players are the worst Manchester United players of all time to play for the team. Ruben Amorim, I think, is a manager that, yes, you can look at, the results that he's getting and how bad it is, but you can also look at the free reign that he has had to an extent. To an extent, I feel like Ruben Amorim has been allowed to do what he thinks is best and fits his narrative and fits his way of coaching and his way of structure to get the betterment of the team, and it just hasn't worked out. So to publicly say that this manager has 3 years, again, I think this is I don't think Jim Ratcliffe, I think he's right. He's not going to make knee-jerk reactions based on what the wider public think, and because the general consensus of Manchester United journalists are triggering conversations amongst the fan base of, should this manager get sacked, look how bad it is, etc, etc. I understand that, you don't make decisions like that based on emotion and irrationality, but I also think you have to make it on realisticness. And the realistic outcome of Ruben Amorim's tenure over the last year is exactly what it is, black and white in front of you. It's been bad. It's been poor. Will it change in 2 years' time? Maybe. Do you want to take that risk and seeing if it changes? Because the possible outcome and the more stronger potential is that it doesn't change. Why? Because there's a saying. What is it? A leopard doesn't change its spots. What you see is what you get. And if you take what Manchester United have gotten over the last year, I don't need another 2 years to see if it gets better. Quite frankly, I don't want to see those 2 years. I don't want to risk it, because it's more likely than not that those 2 years are not going to improve and those 2 years are not going to get better if this year hasn't been what you've expected it to be. And I think there could have been a bit more leeway for the manager if the level of the results weren't so bad. And statistically, how poor Manchester United have not beaten a newly promoted, aside from Aston Villa on the final day of the league last season. Every other team that United beat in the league last season or this season are either A, newly promoted teams, or B, last season they got relegated at the end of the season. United have not done well against anybody. They haven't done well against the likes of Brentford and Fulham and Palace and Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest and Brighton. Those mid-table teams, or the teams that finish in the 8th and the 7th and the 10th, United haven't had good performances under them. Forget even the big teams. Forget that for a split second. The only big team that United beat last season was Manchester City in the derby in December. And that was, I think, a completely different Manchester United that we saw in comparison to what we're seeing now, or what we've seen for the best part of 5 to 6 months so far after that game. So for Jim Ratcliffe to publicly say that, I think the only way that I can see it, and the only way that I can kind of understand it, is that Ineos know that this will land at their doorstep. Jim Ratcliffe and the people that he put in place to make these decisions, to make the difficult football decisions, this mistake will land at their doors. But I will be very honest with you guys. I would much rather a situation where there's accountability and you rectify it quickly and say, you know what, we got this wrong. It hasn't worked out for the last year, so we're gonna try and fix it, rather than to just sit on your hands and wait because you don't want to own up to any errors and hold yourselves accountable for the decisions. It's okay. You're not gonna make every decision right. Honestly, I don't expect every footballing decision to be made correctly by anybody in charge of a football club. But when you double down on your decision and you say, I'm not gonna succumb to the wishes of the wider public, and I'm not gonna go off of people's emotions, and if this happened under Sir Alex Ferguson or Arteta, it's not the same. It's not the same. It is not remotely the same. Quite frankly, Arteta had a little bit of credit in the bank when he won that FA Cup. The same way people gave credit to Erik ten Hag when he won that FA Cup. Ruben Amorim has no credit in the bank whatsoever. Knocked out of the Carabao Cup, losing in the Europa final. There is no credit. Actually, the credit is in minus. We are in an overdraft. Ruben Amorim right now is in an overdraft with Manchester United, and he has to find his way out of that overdraft. And the more time that Ineos give him, there is a strong possibility that overdraft extends. And we know what happens with debts at Manchester United. It's a sinking hole. It's a black hole. It's gonna be a dark cloud that is over us for the foreseeable future. And that is a metaphor, guys. What Ruben Amorim could potentially do if he stays until for 3 years or however long, 2 years left of his contract, it could cause irreversible damage. That is my point that I have to make. So I don't really agree with Jim Ratcliffe's comments. Of course, he's the owner of Manchester United. I think for an owner, we hear a lot from him. We seem to hear from him every 3 to 4 months. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing. Because a lot of the time, I think he says things that kind of rub the fan base the wrong way. And this has just triggered a conversation across the entire fan base, especially in the international break, when there's not much to talk about. And I told you, like, I'm fresh off a Champions League watch-along for the women's team, where we won and we got 3 points. I'll stay away from that project. They haven't really been helping that project. And look, we're in the Champions League. But Jim Ratcliffe says what he has to say. Let me know your thoughts down below. I want to know what you guys think. I think it's not the wrong messenger. It's the wrong message. Everything about it's wrong. Everything about it for me is wrong. But let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Do you agree with Jim Ratcliffe? Do you disagree? Do you agree with the conversations and the discourse that he has given and the argument that he's given around Sir Alex and Arteta as examples? I think, by the way, they call it, I think, barbershop conversations. I think that is... That for me, people bringing up Sir Alex Ferguson and Arteta, for me, just shows potentially how much or how little you know about football and your general opinion. But let me know your thoughts down below, guys. I really want to hear what you have to say. So let me know in the comments section down below. Be sure to hit the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well if you are new here.